Welcome back. It's a brand new episode of Pop Kannon. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
Just say it, Joe. Just go.
As you may have heard, I'm Joe.
And I'm Paul.
It is episode 68. Today we are discussing one of Paul's favorite movies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
No question mark in the title because that's bad luck in old Hollywood lore.
Old Hollywood,
it's
right?
like the Macbeth of punctuation.
All right, well, let's get into this film because this was my first viewing experience of it from start to finish. I probably have seen it at some point as a child, but have no real recollection of it.
Wow.
And I found myself completely sucked into the narrative, completely enamored with it. I love 2D animation. I love the practicality of it. The performances were fantastic for the most part. Seeing the mix of live action and animation, it's just magical, and it makes me feel like a kid again. So overall, I think I had a very, very good viewing experience. Paul, I mentioned before how it's one of your favorite movies.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would say it was my favorite movie, but I do love the movie. Just to be clear. But I think just in general terms, it's kind of crazy that this movie got made at all.
Yes.
Because of, well, for one, the mixture of Warner Brothers characters with Disney characters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only time that's ever happened. They had to have equal screen time. So just that alone, and then mixing the animation with the practical effects, just pretty much all of those things combined, it's just kind of, you're just like, how did this movie get made?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love it. I think that the script is really tight, and they set characters up very well. I don't know. I'm gonna keep going on if I keep talking. But yeah, I really love the movie. Robert, talk about the movie. Talk about it.
Movie. What do you think about the movie?
It's so good. No, I've always really liked this movie. I remember watching it a lot when I was younger on VHS, and then I found some sort of anniversary DVD that I purchased that I then watched, and it's definitely up there for me just in terms of what it was able to accomplish, because as a kid I really enjoyed seeing the mix of the practical and animated stuff. It captured Jordan's imagination when he watched it for the first time all the way through. It's always done that to me. A comfort watch almost, that I could just throw on and be I don't have to pay attention, but I'm gonna catch things every time I watch it, because there's so much going on in the background in this too. But yeah, I absolutely love Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Joe?
I couldn't tell you the last time I saw this movie all the way through before last night. And I think I was a little nervous going in just because I didn't know how it would have aged, but it's not really a problematic movie. It's just the stuff with smoking and drinking that would never be in a Disney movie today, yeah. Even though this wasn't a Disney movie. And yeah, the animation was amazing. I think this was pretty groundbreaking. It's amazing the care that they put into even just that opening cartoon.
Well, it's always been one of my favorite parts of it too.
Yeah, just establishing that they would be real characters, they could be a Bugs Bunny or a Daffy Duck or whatever, to the point that it is amazing that they had all these other properties, and I think that is kind of a selling point of the movie as well.
Yeah.
But I think they easily could have just filled it with these ancillary made up but
similar
obviously
to
representatives of another character. They could have just filled it with those, but the fact that they didn't and treated it this was how Hollywood worked to make cartoons, that was just funny. I really enjoyed revisiting this, and I'm glad that we did. Awesome. Jordan, what did you think?
I really enjoyed the actors' performances, and having to emote and act alongside a two-dimensional being that is not there. Bravo, because props. That takes some skill, and I feel like everyone involved in this movie was very talented. Specifically Bob Hoskins, stole the show. And I read somewhere earlier that he didn't take another movie after this for a full year. He didn't work because he was so freaked out from having to talk to these characters that weren't actually there.
Yeah, he said it was he would still see the hallucinations of them that he would come up with in his head to
oh my god.
So he had to imagine that they were there so much that once he was done, he was still they'd fucking pop up on him. That's hysterical, dude.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I think he did a really good job, especially with the physical stuff that they had to do in this. One of the coolest things to me was always Benny the Cab, and then there was some show on Disney Plus where this one dude that's a Disney adult goes to their archives and stuff like that and gets to look at cool shit from movies, and they pulled the chassis for that out to show it to him, and it's the craziest looking contraption, and where Bob Hoskins had to sit to drive was in no way where the driver of that actually was. There was a person basically seated underneath him in the actual car, and he was seated upward on the back of it basically. And then they had to just in every frame draw that car over the actual thing, which is just super cool. But it's operational and shit like that, and I'm pretty sure Robert Zemeckis, the director, wound up reusing that to film something for one of the Back to the Future sequels, I think.
It was in 3. He used it to double as one of Marty's horses. And they painted over it with a horse
the
digitally.
Same exact thing. It's crazy.
Movie magic, man.
Benny the Cab trivia for you.
Benny the Cab, also credited as Marty's horse.
That character was always super cool. And then we mentioned the screen time between the Warner Brothers and Disney characters, because obviously like Joe had said, it's a huge selling point of the film.
It's the first time that's ever happened, the only time that's ever happened.
Because Warner Brothers basically had to get talked into it by Steven Spielberg, who was working with them on Tiny Toons Adventures, and they said yes, but they had so many contingencies about nobody's allowed to have more lines than the other person, and that's why they made the characters appear in duos throughout, even Porky Pig and Tinkerbell at the end.
Yep.
They have to appear together.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, Warner Brothers called Disney back and was like, hey, we're doing this crazy movie. We're with a bunch of characters in outer space. We'd like to have one of your characters feature in our film. And Disney was like, no.
The deals that they had to have in place to get the rights to all of these characters to use, Betty Boop.
I love how they use Dumbo for a jump scare.
I mean, it was terrifying.
Yeah, it got me.
As a kid, it scared me away from watching the movie Dumbo.
Yeah.
It's is that what it does? It just fucking stares at people? Jesus.
Flies up to windows. I like that, the way they kind of resolved having to have those two characters on screen together and, compete with each other. The Daffy and Donald scene, plays really well, especially for those two characters, that they're just trying to one-up each other, and they have, a little spy versus spy thing. And then, that, Mickey and Bugs just kind of hang out. Besides, those, key characters, a lot of it was, recycled Disney animation, right? The brooms and all the other stuff. But it's still the way that they used it worked. When he's walking through the back lot, that was kind of gimmicky. They were just doing it to show you all the tunes hanging out. But I think once the story gets going, I don't think they fall back on too many of those gimmicks. All of it serves the story. And one thing that I find really impressive about this, especially for being 1988, and I don't know how many times they've tried to do this before that, but the 2D creatures you logically know aren't real, but you're willing to accept that they're there and they're interacting. But with modern like 3D animated characters, they're trying to convince you that it's something real, and you're inherently looking
Not
for
gonna buy it.
Right, you're looking for the lie in there instead of just letting yourself buy in.
In the backlot scene specifically, I think the biggest thing that they do is put what is that creature, like the wolf or the dog or whatever, on the bicycle that falls over.
Oh yeah.
And that's a practical bicycle that falls over because they couldn't keep it up because nobody was on it. So they just let it fall and then animated around it. Like, it was that stuff that immediately like sets you into their universe and what they're creating, and you're kind of like sucked in at that point because you're seeing actual organic things being controlled by things that aren't there.
Yeah. And this actually like originated a term that they like teach in like film school and like animation school, is knocking the lamp. The scene when he picks Roger up and the lamp starts swinging, and they animated the light hitting him so he dims when it swings away and he lights up as it swings back to him. Like the fact that they were like paying that much attention to like make you try to believe that this thing exists in this space is wild. But like you said with the bicycle, like anytime they're interacting with the environment, like it's amazing.
Roger doing the dishes.
Yeah,
exactly. I was just about to say, like,
splashing the water.
When like the weasels come in and they're all holding the guns and they're pointing them, in his face, and it's showing them gripping like the handle of it. It's just the use of lighting and shadows, especially because they're really dramatic with their shadow lighting. I noticed.
Yeah.
Well, they're leaning into the noir concept.
Right. It's all like those small details that you don't really notice unless you're looking for them. Mm-hmm. It's not until you think about it after that, like, how did they do that? How did they make him splash the water? Or, like, how did they, like, make it grip the gun? But, like, in the moment, you're just like, that just happened.
Yeah. The level of work to just animate the characters into this movie is just astounding. Like, they literally had to take every frame was a still photo, and they had to just do the animation for that frame by frame by frame.
They had 326 animators working full time on the film.
That's just the level of work.
So over 82,000 frames
were hand-drawn.
Individually hand-drawn.
So, like, Disney owns, obviously, its characters, and Disney owns this movie because it was released as a touchstone film. Warner Brothers owns their characters, so their characters created specifically for this film are actually technically owned by Amblin, which is Steven Spielberg's production company. So what do you guys think of Roger Rabbit, like, as a character?
I think he fits the bill of what they were going for.
Oh yeah.
There was like a novel, so
that was based
it is based on a character, but in terms of what they were going for, and he has some like genuinely funny lines too.
Oh, yeah.
like not prostate probate thing. That's really funny. But like I like that the movie like sets rules.
You could have done that the whole time, and he says, no, I could only do it when it was funny.
Yeah. It's like it's cool because it's like a benefit for them in terms of writing. Like it's in their nature to like break the fourth wall, essentially.
Yeah.
It's like part of who they are.
I think that Roger was like suitably insufferable. Like he's annoying, but he's meant to be. The fake cartoon at the opening. It's just like
he's like the most inept.
I'll save you, baby.
Just watching him even attempt to do it, because like all of the constant standard issue pratfalls happen in one clip. Like everything that ever happens in a Tom and Jerry or Bugs Bunny basically happens in the span of that like 5-minute set piece.
My only qualm with that opening scene is that they made it look too good. Like I wanted it to look worse, like an old like Looney Tunes Like I wanted like only the things that
That's
moved
a
to be
good
really
point.
well animated.
Yeah, it does look like overly cinematic for what it was.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like you weren't necessarily viewing it from a viewer's perspective.
Yeah,
but in the context of the movie,
right?
You were literally viewing the set, which is correct. It's like so like meta.
The only thing that ever really bothered me about that scene, and it still stuck out to me today, was when the baby's trying to get the cookies on top of the refrigerator, and each piece of bread comes off individually as he slips. Drove me crazy as a kid because I was like, that's not how bread works. Like, it just pissed me off. I don't know why.
That's where you drew the line.
It bothered me just because they kept loose bread on top of the refrigerator.
Just a stack of it.
Yeah. And the switch is really good too. Because when they open the refrigerator, I was watching with my roommates, and my roommate was like, why does that look like it's 3D? And it's because it was like practical, like a block of cheese that like was made to look like a cartoon.
Dude, that moment has always been in my head.
And the music is still playing, and the director says, cut the track.
When you get the transition or the difference between the two, that moment, like, as a kid, I remember just being like, it could be filmed on a real set. Oh, that could be real. Like, it really took me away and captured my imagination when I was younger.
Yeah, the creativity that went into this film alone is bananas to me.
Oh, yeah.
How they achieved certain shots, how they got around certain limitations that they may have had. It's fascinating to me. I can't wait to like continually rewatch this film and like study it more.
Yeah.
Because like I said to you guys before, like I wasn't watching this movie critically. I started watching it as a fan because it was just fun. It pulled me in. I really liked Roger Rabbit as a character. Like, even though he was annoying, his purpose was to be annoying.
Yeah.
That's like who that character would be. Like, all of these cartoons have their own personality,
yes.
and I think that that's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the world building that they created in the fact that, like, these cartoons have always existed. Mm-hmm. And there's, like, a social class system between cartoons and, like, humans.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they were definitely, like, especially when we get to that nightclub, they're definitely like making a statement with, like, they're allowed to perform there and work there, but they can't be patrons. Like, that's happened before.
Yeah, I mean, if we're like going that meta about it, like, animation was as much a culprit of that kind of racism as anybody else was. So I think if that was intentional, maybe it was to comment on that, or maybe it was just a lasting blemish on society. But
Mary Poppins's penguins are like the waiters in that scene, and the idea was to imply that, like, Walt frequented that place and offered the penguins a job or something. Like,
well, the password to get in is Walt sent me.
Walt sent me.
Which, like, is he like their god or what? Did he make them, or does he just hire them? Where do the tunes come from?
Where do tunes come from? Who is your god?
So basically the plot of this movie centers around Roger Rabbit is set up for the murder of one Marvin Acme, and it turns out, spoiler alert, to be Judge Doom, played by the one and only Christopher Lloyd. But as soon as I saw him on my screen, I got excited because I knew he was going to bring this over-the-top performance to this character, and he did, and I was so happy with it.
Yeah, Judge Doom has been scary as fuck for a really long time.
Yeah.
just a terrifying like design and just unnerving to look at. And
I remember being genuinely scared of the I talk
when he dips
just like this.
Oh,
Like I was like legitimately scared of that as a kid.
I do remember that. Yeah, when it's like how they made. It's like a testament to the world building of the movie and where you are by the time it happens. But when he dips that cartoon shoe into the dip, it's like genuinely scary, and like the flashbacks of the screaming of the shoe really like lives rent free in my head.
What's so funny about this is like everyone plays so seriously.
Yeah.
Like there's no fourth wall break within the world to the point where it ruins the illusion.
Mm-hmm. Something that they did in that way really well was instead of giving you a lot of exposition dumping, which they don't. It's more through dialogue, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they did was kind of coast across his desk, and you get like those headlines from the newspaper clippings, and kind of like, so you're kind of like brought into the history of, without having somebody have to say, and then his brother got like, they didn't have to do that.
But they did use like a joke. It was a joke, but it like landed really funnily when Dolores turns very dramatically and says, "Toons killed his brother."
Yeah. Well, that to me it doesn't mirror it necessarily, but when you first see Bob Hoskins, everything's bright and lit, and then it cuts to him and the lights get super dramatic on his face to do the noir thing.
Yeah.
So then kind of the same thing happens in that scene. Everything goes on and they're like, "What's his deal?" And she like, super dramatic again. Toon killed his brother. And it was like, oh shit, that's why he's so fucked up. He's so dark and distraught because a Toon killed his brother. What, they dropped a piano on his head?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, another spoiler is Judge Doom is a cartoon pretending to be a human, which he plays very well.
I'm pretty sure, because they don't like ever tell you what cartoon he is, but in the background of the one scene there's a poster for like the pistol packing possum or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like on the wall in the background. And
Yeah.
the fucking cartoon has the same eyes that he does at the end.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I had like read that because I kind of read some of the trivia before it started, and I watched the movie, and I read that one before it started, so I was looking for like the things in the background. So then when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, is that him? Like, is he? And then he's got his little rodent posse with him, and I was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense.
Right.
Yeah, it adds up. I like it. Besides Christopher Lloyd, the only other person I could imagine doing this that well is probably Jim Carrey.
Would have been a very different film.
Yeah. The first thought I had when he came on screen was Slugworth. But then I remembered that that's not him.
He looked just like him. Old Slugworth, you son of a bitch.
But he did do a great job balancing the creepiness with the tooniness.
Yeah.
Tim Curry apparently was too scary.
Yes.
John Cleese wasn't scary enough.
Yeah.
And Christopher Lee just straight up turned it down.
Christopher Lee was like, I'll never be in anything that ridiculous. And then he played Willy Wonka's father in the remake of Willy Wonka. So I'll show you where his fucking brain was at. Somebody needed a paycheck in 2005, but not in 1988.
He had a very successful metal band back then.
I read a thing earlier too that Bill Murray was originally considered to play Eddie. Mm-hmm. They had no way of getting in contact with him, and he after the movie had come out, he read that they were looking for him to play the role, and he audibly screamed in public because he would have jumped at the chance to do it.
Oh my god!
It's okay. He got to be in Space Jam. It's all the same.
I feel like it would be also a very different movie with Bill Murray in the driver's seat of this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the Roger's kind of already a secondary character in this. I can't imagine if Bill Murray was in this how secondary a lot of those characters would have wound up being.
Yeah,
because he would have just taken over all of the attention in it.
I think Eddie Valiant works so well because you kind of take him serious. Like, he plays the role straight.
Yeah,
I feel like Bill Murray would not have done that.
No, he would have been winking and tongue in cheek like the whole time.
Yeah.
Where Bob Hoskins, who I didn't know was like English my entire life until he passed away. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's like legitimately. I don't want to say he's British, but I know that he's from.
He has an accent
across the pond. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
It blew my fucking mind the first time I heard that, because I knew him from this and to a much lesser extent that Mario movie. So like, to me, he just kind of was a regular American guy, and then when I heard him in an interview, I was like, no fucking way, because he did Eddie Valiant fucking amazing.
Yeah, his like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think like his like hard-boiled performance makes like the turn of like his clown show at the end all the better.
Yes.
Whereas like if it's Bill Murray, you're just expecting that, like you're waiting for that.
That's such a good point. Yeah, it wouldn't have hit as hard. Yeah,
and like his whole routine was just like, it's like awkward because you've gotten to know this character who's like not like that, but it's also just like amazing to like see it. And he doesn't like become a tune. Like, it's not like end of Space Jam Michael Jordan's arm stretching. He's just doing a clown show, like a human clown show. It's really cool.
And the only way to kill them, the mix for the dip, is stuff that removes like what is it, like paint
stains.
from ink and paint from like cells and shit.
It's like acetate and turpentine.
Yeah.
Such a fucking like minor detail, because they didn't have to even think about what it was, because it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were like, no, it's the stuff that erases ink. You're like, oh, okay, that's good.
That's even funnier. Yeah.
Like the story itself, like this movie could have just been the gimmick that it's like people in cartoons, but like every line like leads to something, like like we have the best public transportation in the world, leading to like Doom's plot is to build the 111 freeway. And even like Acme spraying him with invisible ink, and then the twist of like, oh, his will was written in invisible ink. It's very good, like detective fiction.
Reappearing
ink. When Roger starts reading his love letter and then slips into the will. But
of sound, body, and mind.
Dude, that fucking killed me when I was watching it for this. That fucking killed me when I was watching it for this, because he's like, my darling Roger, or whatever the fuck, of sound, body, and mind do hereby state. And I was just like, wait, what the fuck? But also Eddie's face when he gets sprayed with the ink at the club, like he was legitimately gonna beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Fucking God. Oh my God, that killed me, because he like, that's part of like how serious he took the role. You know what I mean? Where if it were like we were talking about somebody else and they got sprayed with the ink, they'd be like, oh, what is it, disappearing ink? Like they would have made a comment about it or something to tell you the joke, as opposed to let the joke happen.
So Marvin Acme, with the disappearing, reappearing ink and his will, is set up with a game of patty cake with Jessica, and they got their photos taken by Eddie playing this game of patty cake. Hilarious that they used that as like, she's cheating on you.
As he's flipping through, it's literally like every motion of patty cake.
It turns into a flip book. Yeah.
He just kept taking pictures. Patty cake. Fucking, oh my God. Like, hoping that in the next photo they'd stop playing or something.
Because they play it when he's taking the photos as if like they are like fucking. But like to Roger, it's just as bad as if they were. Is like such a good bit.
Like, we hear it, but we don't see it, and it definitely sounds like they're having sex.
Yeah.
And then
I love that he didn't know who she was either. He goes to Betty like, "Why so many people come here to see a rabbit?" Because she's Jessica Rabbit, so he assumes she's a rabbit. But it's her name by marriage.
He can't figure out why so many humans are interested in seeing that.
Flash forward to Lola Bunny 2020.
Yeah, I was gonna say, flash forward to Space Jam, like we were talking about.
No, I think she's a good character.
Yeah,
she it's just
They
over
give her
the top sexually.
Yeah, but they give her more to do than just that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing that...
Yeah, she's a perfect caricature of a femme fatale, which is already a caricature of a woman. So, like, she's a caricature on top of a caricature, which is naturally just going to be ridiculous and, like...
She's also a cartoon.
and based inside of a satire on Hollywood. Like, there's layers to Jessica Rabbit's existence.
Right.
Yeah. It'd be crazy to me for somebody to watch this now and complain about like her role. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like how things from the past kind of come up and people are like, oh, well, that's not acceptable anymore. Like, I don't think Jessica Rabbit falls into that category strictly because she had more to do in this movie than just be sexual eye candy.
Yeah. And I think that was also part of the intention to like present a character that would just be like eye candy, but it's like, no, she's obviously like a living thing with all these different like
issues and shit. Yeah.
And I like the way that they used her character throughout as like, you don't know which side she's on. You don't know if she was involved in this plot to set up her husband or not. And I like the fact that they played that line really well. And then it turns out that she's just head over heels in love with him as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's another
that was
comment on like the way that like tunes are different in that like when he asked Betty, she's married to Roger Rabbit, and Betty thinks that she's the lucky one.
Yeah.
Because like she's made to be attractive to like people,
tunes.
Not to tunes.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because I don't think her character design was finished before the movie was like filmed. Bob Hoskins even went on to say like what he imagined when he was acting wasn't even as risque as she wound up looking in the final film, which is hilarious to me.
Like his wildest fantasy was more muted than Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah.
And that goes back to him being British, we think. Very repressed people.
Repressed people.
But yeah, I liked Jessica as a character.
Yeah, so do I.
One of my favorite scenes, I think, would be the ending with Judge Doom and him like melting in the acid.
Yeah,
terrifying.
Yeah, terrifying,
Haunted
but also like
my dreams forever.
And honestly, I'm really happy that I did not see this movie as a child, because I think he would have actually legitimately scared me.
Yeah.
He scared the bejesus out of me, dude.
My roommate has like a big phobia of like steamrollers and like things that like get flattened. So like that was a pretty traumatic moment for them.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Mark, movies that you guys can't watch together: Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Austin Powers.
Austin Powers.
Yeah, but I wouldn't watch Austin Powers. Not until the anniversary when you guys make me watch.
Stay tuned.
Could happen.
Like and comment. Comment below if you want to see Austin Powers, the spy who shagged
When
me.
is the 20th anniversary of Austin Powers?
It definitely had to have passed already, right? Wouldn't that have been 2017?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
It came out in 97, I think.
Oh my
Damn,
gosh.
missed it.
We'll come back around for it.
Still got gold member to look forward to.
Yeah, 2002 gold member coming up.
I really don't want to talk about that one.
Coming up. But yeah, overall, Judge Doom melting in a vat of the dip.
Yeah,
was a good scene for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the cartoon at the beginning was like one of my favorite things about the movie, just because, like I said, I love that they executed all those tropes at the same time. Like at one point he falls and puts 4 of his fingers into 2 sockets. You know what I mean? Like there's no way naturally that could happen to you. So it's just like the funniest fucking thing. While he is like rolling around in the kitchen with the fucking teapot on his head and all this other shit. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And then the chili sauce going down his throat and shooting him across the fucking kitchen. It's just the most bullshit banana pants. And it really like sets you up for something, and then the turn where you see it live action is like debasing. So you're right at the beginning, you know, they're setting you up for like, you're not going to know what world you're in here because it's all different and weird from what you know. And I like that.
My favorite bit in that is when they pan over and you see that the person playing the mother was just like on stilts. Like it wasn't another cartoon. It was a person on stilts.
Yes. Yeah. That's fucking amazing. So amazing.
Dude, I don't know if I could pick a favorite scene. I feel like it's all just equally good to me.
Favorite scene was the movie.
I guess like what I like the most is the Bob Hoskins and Roger Rabbit like back and forth scenes where it's like just them, and it's like quick like punchy dialogue, and a lot of it's like genuinely funny. I like all of those scenes.
I really like the bar scene, not because of Jessica. Her like whole song, like as like a, I don't know, a person who grew up in America, like repressed, like makes me feel very awkward. But like I love the interaction with Betty Boop, like when she says, "Oh, since they went to color," and she says, "Oh, do I still got it?" And he looks at her and he says, "Yeah, you still got it." Like it was a very sweet and cheesy moment that I really loved, and it told you a lot about that character, even that like he didn't always hate tunes, like he used to like them and like interact with them a lot more, and he still has like a soft spot for like his old friends, I guess. And I think that's true of like a lot of like adults who like they have a heart for like the old cartoons that they grew up with, but they look at like what kids like now and it's very foreign to them.
Well, yeah, it's all terrible.
I can very much speak to that.
One of the fun facts that I read about this movie, the animation director, Richard Williams, said that they set out to break 3 rules with this movie. They want to move the camera as much as possible. They wanted to use lighting and shadows to an extreme that was never before attempted. And then they wanted to have the tunes interact with real-world objects and people as much as possible. And I think they wildly succeeded in all 3 of those.
I mean, if that was your mission statement, this was a fucking wild success.
Yeah, really.
I just wish the camera didn't move so much in the opening cartoon, because I wanted it to look like an old Looney Tunes.
Yeah. And I love the film noir aspect of it. Because it works. Like, if you were to take the gimmick out of it and just put real characters in, like, it still works as a film.
Yeah.
You know, it's pulpy and it's cheesy, but it also, like, it works.
They had to finish all of the physical acting, and then they had to finish all of the voice acting, and then they got to animate it.
Yeah.
So it was like they had to finish the movie twice, essentially.
Yeah.
And like the budget was supposed to be 50, and then they knocked it down to 30, and then it wound up being 70. So they made this for $70 million, which I don't know. I don't care really what director you want to throw at it. I don't know that anybody else could do as good now with $70 million to make this type of movie. Like, I don't think it'd be possible.
Yeah, I don't even know what like budgets looked like then, though, compared to now.
Well, I would imagine...
And also, like, they had all those anime...
I would imagine going in with 50 and having it knocked down to 30 was like, they were like, what the fuck are we going to do?
Yeah.
Which is probably why a lot of it wound up being practical, because it's often cheaper and less bullshit to just, like, make the thing actually do it.
Yeah. And also, they had all those animators, but, like, how many of them, like, got treated fairly?
Yeah.
No, yeah. That's absolutely valid, I feel like.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people working a lot of long hours that didn't get shit from this fucking movie. I always thought it was weird that there was not a lot of merch that surrounded this. Just the characters that they created. Like, there wasn't a lot of Roger/Jessica stuff.
Well, I think they just end up falling into the same category.
Yeah, because it's based on someone else's work. Like,
I mean, it's
Roger
an
Rabbit's
adaptation of a book, so like they had the rights, I guess, but also.
But did they have like merchandising rights, like in that regard, where they could just make stuff like that?
To be fair, this was, well, no, I mean, that wouldn't necessarily make sense then, because I was going to say this was 88 and Batman 89 came out the year later, obviously, but Star Wars had already existed, so merchandising was in full fucking swing.
Yeah.
Especially in the 80s, where they were like pumping shit out at that point just to try to get money from it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's weird that, I mean, I don't know necessarily who this movie in 1988 was made for. You know what I mean? Like, who the target audience for this was then. The thing that I read said that they did a test screening of it for 18 and 19-year-olds, and they allegedly walked out and didn't see the end of it because they hated it so much. And Robert Zemeckis literally was like, I'm not changing a fucking thing about this movie. So we're just going to fucking roll with it and see what happens. Because you can't really, I mean, it's not necessarily for kids, even though kids watch it. There's a lot of shit when you're a kid that just goes right over your fucking head.
Oh, yeah.
So, any final thoughts on Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
It's a great movie, and if you haven't watched it in a long time, like some of us, it's definitely always a good time to go back and see it. It's on Disney Plus, obviously, but also is on Amazon Prime Video now, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
It's definitely a film that I'm going to rewatch. Definitely going to be a comfort film.
Cool.
And I don't know necessarily if I have anything bad to say about it. Like, it's got its issues, but like, what movie doesn't at the end of the day? And this is one that just brought me a lot of joy.
When you had fun, the issues fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there dragging yourself through the runtime, it's not nearly as fun, and you notice every fucking flaw in it. That's just how the fuck it works.
It's a good movie for like multiple viewings, to watch it as a movie and then watch it like to appreciate all of the
little shit.
You know, yeah. There's a lot of other people in the cast that were like huge, like voice actors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like all of the original voice actors for Bugs, for Daffy, for Donald, Mickey, Betty Boop. Like all of those were the original voice actors, which I thought was really cool. The attention to detail in this movie is far beyond anything that I originally anticipated going into it.
Getting the original Betty Boop is a fucking pull, man.
This is like a crazy movie for what they like set out to do. I think it's like often been copied but never repeated. Like I think like 7 or 8 years later. So yeah, they tried to do it again. And like Space Jam's great, but like I don't think it has like the staying power of this. Like Space Jam's value, I think by now is more nostalgia that has been kind of like run to the ground by a new legacy. The only thing I can think of that like is kind of like close enough to this is like the Muppets, just in terms of like selling you on an idea of like this like fantastic but like real world.
Puppets and people living among each other. Who would think that'd be a good idea?
Yeah.
And not to mention it, like there was like a newfound like appreciation, I guess, for like the
2D artwork.
Yeah, which makes sense because like we kind of were all raised in that time frame that 2D animation and Disney animation in particular was like huge. So I think that definitely helps my appreciation of it.
And when you think about cartoons in the 80s that were like on TV, they were all kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a really good point.
And then those fucking hippies over at Pixar had to ruin it.
I think before this it was like Oliver and Company, which was like not that well received, maybe.
Yeah. I think that has like a cult
like,
kind of. I think that's aged better than it started.
Yeah,
Tune in for our next episode where we talk about the other Robert Zemeckis hit, The Polar Express.
No.
He was like, hey, I made a beautiful animation where you believe that everything's alive. Now let me bring you into the soulless, uncanny valley where you can never escape.
So now it's that point in the episode where we ask you guys what you thought about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So please leave a comment below. Hit us up on social media at PopCannon. Don't forget the K.
Thanks everyone for being on my show.
If you want to see our animated faces, Jordan also edits these podcast episodes as videos and uploads them to YouTube. You can find us on there. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you'll always know when we have a new episode coming out.
That'd be pretty sweet of you. And if you don't want to watch it on YouTube, that's fine. You could also listen on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Pop Cannon and hit that subscribe button. But also, if you've listened this far into this episode, please rate and review our podcast on whatever thing you use. Spotify, Apple, whatever the fucking Android one is. Just rate and review us on those, and we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. So for Pop Cannon, if you would like to, you could also find us individually. Jordan, can be found on Twitter and Instagram at JL24FPS.
I'm Robert, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Yesball.
I'm Joe. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Joe for Broke.
I have an Instagram now, guys.
Oh, holy shit.
He does.
What is it?
It's Paul Shannon 354. I had to read it because I didn't have it memorized. That's normal, right?
So for Pop Cannon, thank you so much for watching and or listening. We will see you on the very next episode. It's episode 69, the last one of the year. We're talking Spider-Man No Way Home. So thank you. We'll see you on the next one.
See you, bye.